Dear children, we are going to start another topic of the chapter, building temples, mosques and tanks. You saw in the chapter, kings used to construct temples. Why were the temples constructed by kings? Kings wanted to show their power, to show their wealth, to show their devotion to God, to show themselves as representative of God. That's why they used to construct temples. Take the example of Raja Rajeshwara temple. An inscription mentions that it was built by Raja Rajeshwara for the worship of his god Raja Rajeshwaram. Did you notice one thing? The name of the ruler and the god are very similar. The king took the god's name because it was auspicious and he wanted to appear like a god. The Raja Rajeshwara temple at Thanjavur and the Khandariya Mahadev temple are two very famous temples. Let's see their architecture one by one. This Raja Rajeshwara temple, it has the tallest shikhara amongst temples of its time. It was not easy to construct such a tall shikhara. You know why? Because there were no cranes in those days, and the 90-ton stone for the top of shikhara was too heavy to lift manually. But how was it done then? So the architects built an inclined path to the top of the temple, placed the boulder on rollers and rolled it all the way to the top. The path started more than 4 kilometers away so that it would not be too steep. This was dismantled after the temple was constructed. But the residents of that area remembered the experience of the construction of temple for a long time. Even now, a village near the temple is called Charupalam, the village of the incline. Another temple is the Khandariya Mahadev temple. This temple was dedicated to Lord Shiva. It was constructed in 999 by the king Dhangadeva of the Chandela dynasty. An ornamented gateway led to an entrance and the main hall that was known as Mahamandapa, where dances were performed. The image of the chief deity was kept in the main shrine, that is Garbhagriha. This was the place for ritual worship where only the king, his immediate family and priests gathered. The Khajuraho complex contained royal temples where commoners were not allowed. Not only temples, even very good mosques were also constructed. This is the picture of the famous mosque Jama Masjid built by Shah Jahan in his new capital at Shah Jahanabad between 1650 to 1656. Like Hindu kings, Muslim sultans did not claim to be incarnation of God. Persian court chronicler described that the sultan was the shadow of God. An inscription in the Quwait al-Islam mosque explained that the god chose Alauddin as a king because he had the qualities of Moses and Solomon. Solomon and Moses, they were the great lawgivers of the past. He says the greatest lawgiver and architect was God himself. God has created the world out of chaos and introduced order and symmetry. Dear children, rulers often constructed tanks and reservoirs so that ordinary people can get sufficient water. Sometimes these tanks and reservoirs were part of a temple, mosque, and Gurudwara. Constructing tanks and reservoirs was highly praised. Sultan Iltutmish won universal respect for constructing a large reservoir just outside Delhi Akuna. It was called the Hauze Sultani, or you can say King's Reservoir. See in the picture, this is the picture of Harmandir Sahib, Golden Temple, and you can see the Holy Sarovar here. It shows constructing water tanks and reservoir. It was also a practice in those days.